Anti-Afro Svengalis. I want to play a clip from Martin Luther King Jr. in an interview he did about nonviolence. I'm going to come back with the commentary just so you know. I'm going to put the complete video, which is not that long, at the back end of this commentary. I encourage you to listen to the entire interview. I'm taking points and applying it to the context of this video. So stay tuned and I will return.
If the only alternative to violence, to fear, is violence and vice versa, then I would say fight. But it isn't the only alternative. It seems to me that there are three ways that oppressed people can deal with their oppression.
What are they, Dr. King?
Well, one is to rise up in open violence, in physical violence. And some persons have used that method, persons who have been oppressed. But I think the danger of that method is its futility. I feel that violence creates many more social problems than it solves. I feel that nonviolence, organized, I should say, organized nonviolent resistance is the most powerful weapon that oppressed people can use in breaking loose from the bondage of oppression. Now, the other method that one might use is that of resignation or acquiescence. But I think that is just as bad as violence, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good.
So the reason why I was bringing this up and it came to mind is that I'm acknowledging people have different ways of handling situations. I have relatives and friends who don't buy into this, what Martin Luther King Jr. says. They don't go around messing with people, but they're going to knock you the freak out if you mess with them. I love them dearly, but we don't agree on the issue of violence. I would do anything for them, but I'm still going to reinforce my perspective, and that is nonviolence. Now, we know people have a different communication style. This is a disclaimer. I'm going to say this before I get into the whole point of this video. Men tend to have louder voices. There are some women with loud voices. People with loud voices don't bother me. If your voice is just loud, it's just loud. If people decide they want to go up on a panel and throw down, raising their voices or even swearing, there's nothing wrong with that. Getting their point across. Just swearing in and of itself is not an issue. I curse all the time. Certain things I'm not going to say here. That's my inclination. When I'm in a public setting, I show restraint. This is a public setting. Again, I'm not criticizing anybody who decides to curse until the cows come home. I'm just talking about how I manage myself here in these YouTube streets. What I want to emphasize is the spirit behind what you're saying and what you're doing. That's my focus. So, Photon, I'm not saying I reject coming onto your panel, but I would never come onto your panel under the circumstances that presented today. So don't take offense to that. What I do not do, I don't jump in the middle of volatility. It's about the spirit behind the message and those who are delivering it. No one has to agree with me. I don't have to agree with them, but I'm very much aware of the motives at play. And there's a whole history. I put history in quotations. The history with respect to one individual whose name I'm not going to mention. No, I'm not going to mention your name. Just like I'm not going to mention the name of this other subject who's been desperate for me to speak her name for more than a year. I'll speak your name when I want to speak your name. You're not going to force me. You're not going to compel me to do anything. You can say my name as many times as you like. That leaves you in the aggressive position. I'm staying in the defensive position, which is where I've always been in and around these YouTube streets. Now, there are those who want to pretend that the timeline and the history is them just kicking back, and here comes AAS. You all know that's a lie, and I can prove it in a court of law. You are the aggressors, and I'm in the defensive position. Now, let me follow up on what I meant by history. This is about 4 months in the making. This is not a new issue. So if I've already reconciled a situation, like in my mind, I have all the evidence, all the information that I need because the information was brought to me immediately. I was unaware. There was a certain person, this is about 4 months ago, started going around to different chats where I don't go and was making snide comments, disrespectful comments, and just a bunch of mess and upset many people. And they came to me about it. What are you going to do about this? You know what my response was? Nothing. At least not yet. Let the person rock out. A few people started mentioning it. That's okay. It's a free country. The person kept on and on and on and on. It's about the spirit behind the demeanor. What is your goal? What are you striving to achieve? Who are you appealing to? That's the question. I stand by my recommendation. I stand by the disposition that I have in life that I was raised with. I do not try to exacerbate conflicts when harmony is an option. If there are people who I rock with and there's an issue, I'm never going to encourage them. Go to YouTube and have Demonville or Louseville live streams or Demon chats, mediate or get on sides, battle it out on a live stream. I'm never going to recommend. What? That doesn't make any sense, people. Then again, we're talking about motives. The person today said it publicly, which I already knew. They had no interest in any peaceful resolution. And this goes back to the very beginning when Stargate and Breaking the Culture of Silence were both incredibly shocked that this person was saying they've got issues with her. They don't have any issues with you and didn't. And so you started talking about them, just like you started talking about me. We didn't mention you first. You mentioned us. And when I say mention, in a negative context, she was looking for a fight, a battle in the open YouTube streets, and she got it. Didn't turn out very well. It didn't turn out very well for Let Me See Your Handcuffs. It didn't turn out well for King Kong Crazy. When I say didn't turn out well, what their objective, what they were seeking for me to be openly, publicly condemned, to run me off YouTube. Look, here's Afro Svengalis. We're saying something bad about her. They were like, yes, we want to see these people's reaction to us talking shit about her. Guess whose issue that is? That's your issue. This is not new. This has been going on for 4 months. So if someone's coming up trying to get a resurgence of something that I've already reconciled, I'm not responsible for the outcome. But here you go, piling all this other information on. And what I think is the most, it's got to be seen as comical, is for someone to go around in chats speaking my name in a disrespectful manner for 4 months and trying to characterize me as the fake and phony one. No, you're fake and phony because you sat up here and said you rock with me and you went around in live streams talking shit about me. You have a right to talk shit about me. But what I'm not going to let you do is turn the tables and switcheroo. There's no switcheroo. You're the one with the daggers. You're the one that went stabbing. Same thing with King Kong Crazy. Same thing with Let Me See Your Handcuffs. Same thing with this other subject who is begging, who is desperate for me to mention her name. I'm not giving you what you want. You can continue mentioning my name. So in case you want to go to court, which, by the way, doesn't do anything for me any more than Catherine Brown did, and she filed an actual lawsuit. You're the one that's the aggressor. You're mentioning my name. You're sending me emails. I don't give a damn what you have to say, and most specifically, care what you think about me. Spin your stories. You are the aggressor. I am in the defensive position. Same for the subject that has gone around for 4 months talking shit. It always starts behind the scenes. People always come and tell me what's happening. Let's see if I can rally the troops against AAS. What troops? You're not rallying anybody against me that I care about. You're not rallying anybody against me who cares about me. Leaving snide comments, whether it's in the chat or they're on a panel. I already reconciled that. This is 4 months, people. It's very clear who the aggressor has been in the situation. I don't have any responsibility to participate in any resurgence. It always starts with taking temperatures. Can I get this person to talk shit about AAS with me? If I tell this person shit about AAS, will it get back to her? Can I get this person to help me join forces against her? It's not going to matter. I am very grateful for the support system that I've always had. And each time someone thinks they can come up and erode or undermine my support system gets stronger. That's what happens. You're making yourselves look like fools. Every single subject who tried this tactic, it blew up in their face. You can say for yourselves, ask yourselves, do you think what went down is preferable to other scenarios that could have occurred? Let's say the person decided, I don't care about these Stargazer breaking the code, I'll forget them, and really forgot about them. I ain't studying them. Or approached one or both to say, hey, what's up? 1-to-1. Or approach them and it didn't resolve itself and you say, okay, forget it. I am very confident that what occurred was not the desired outcome. And we know this because the person was complaining that I wasn't in her chat after she sat around all these live streams talking about me. I unsubscribed. I don't even stop to ponder because nobody's going to put guilt on me because I didn't show up at their live stream after they've been running around for 4 months talking shit about me. I would have a very low self-concept if anybody could guilt me for that. You can't guilt me for anything. I'm in the defensive position. You are the one who started acting in a disrespectful manner. And you think I'm going to hop on a panel with you while you're screaming out of control? I turned the volume down because I knew you were escalated and you're in this volatile state and you're compiling issues trying to assign me responsibility for your bad decisions. You've made bad decisions. You don't have to listen to anybody. You're a grown-ass woman. I came to you and let you know certain things. How you handled it is how you handled it. You're not going to ever succeed in guilting me when you were the one that ran around to the chats with daggers. Just like with King Kong Crazy, oh my goodness, this is perhaps the most angry that my support system was with me because I gave him passes and a reprieve. And I gave him that reprieve because he's a crime victim. But I let everyone know this is not permanent. He's going to continue to do this. Trust and believe I'm going to address him. But for now, I'm not going to say anything. Other people got, I don't want to say impatient because they have a right to say something. They didn't want to wait. They came out and they mentioned, and Gerald was one of them. He was very pissed for many reasons. Pissed at me. That's okay. I love Gerald like a brother, sometimes like an uncle, and then sometimes he's got this fatherly way about him. He's got all these different roles. He was very angry with me. Did I come here and start backstabbing one of my best friends who I've known for 10 years? Do you have a relationship that started before YouTube, came to YouTube, and continues to thrive for 10 years? And there are other people who I've known just as much time. We don't agree on everything. I can't even imagine having a disagreement, difference of opinion with someone, and I'm going to come to YouTube. These aren't YouTube relationships. But I think those who don't have positive relationships, they're unhappy in their relationships, plural, no matter what they are, they're the quickest to hone in and obsess over other relationships where people are making positive comments about their families. They're targeted. And I maintain the heterosexual brothers are the ones under attack the most by those who have very obvious disruptions in their own lives and own relationships because they're online telling about it. Be that it may, it's not going to make any difference what anyone says about me. You don't have the ability to impact me. You don't have any ability to remove anything from me that's of value. Most important, how I feel about myself, it has nothing to do with what you say about me. But you're welcome to continue. And what you do, you put yourself on a path of self destruction, self incrimination, because you have to keep escalating. Because I'm never going to give you the response that you want. It's not going to happen. But proceed at your own risk. Folks, you know I have more coming your way. In the meantime, buyer beware.
Gandhi, Dr. King, dramatized and defined the technique of nonviolence, and yet he also said that the only alternative to fear is violence, and that if that were the alternative, he would have to choose violence. Do you subscribe to that judgment of Gandhi, or would you disavow violence under any condition?
Well, I think I would have to somewhat interpret Gandhi at this point. I don't think he was setting forth violence as an alternative. I think he was emphasizing, or rather trying to refute an all too prevalent fallacy, and that is that the persons who use the method of nonviolence are actually the weak persons who don't have the weapons of violence, persons who are afraid. And I think that is what Gandhi was attempting to refute. Now, in that instance, I would agree with Gandhi that if the only alternative to violence, to fear, is violence and vice versa, then I would say fight. But it isn't the only alternative. And that is one point that Gandhi was trying to bring out. It seems to me that there are three ways that oppressed people can deal with their oppression.
What are they, Dr. King?
Well, one is to rise up in open violence, in physical violence. And some persons have used that method, persons who have been oppressed. But I think the danger of that method is its futility. I feel that violence creates many more social problems than it solves.
May I interrupt you there, Dr. King? There are today certainly people who are forced to endure a kind of injustice that neither you nor even Gandhi in his time had ever seen. For example, would you regard the martyrs of Hungary's rebellion a year ago as misguided men and having used violence?
I admire freedom fighters wherever they are, but I still believe that nonviolence is the strongest approach. I think that would apply to the Hungarian situation also. I don't think it's limited to a particular locality. I think it should apply in every situation in the world where individuals seek to break loose from the bondage of colonialism or from some totalitarian regime or from the system which we confront in America.
You truly believe, then, that nonviolence is the sole, the universal answer to injustice and oppression?
Very definitely. Very definitely. I feel that nonviolence, organized nonviolent resistance is the most powerful weapon that oppressed people can use in breaking loose from the bondage of oppression. Now, the other method that one might use is that of resignation or acquiescence. But I think that is just as bad as violence, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good.
You make a difference, a distinction between passive resistance and nonviolent resistance? Is that it?
Well, I think that can be something of a semantical problem. If passive resistance means just passively accepting violence or injustice, if it means cowardice and stagnant passivity, then there is a difference, because nonviolent resistance does resist. It is dynamically active. It is passive physically, but it is strongly active spiritually.
In a sense, would you regard it as moving into the Christian philosophy, too? You mean the doctrine of turn the other cheek you regard as positive rather than passive?
I think it is positive. I think very definitely, if it is used properly and accepted with the proper attitude, it is a very strong method. It is a method of the strong man, not the weak man.
Dr. King, the editor of the local newspaper here proposed an editorial the other day that I ask you to reconcile, as he put it, your passive resistance philosophy with your satisfaction, which you've expressed very clearly, over the use of bayonet force in the Little Rock situation. Well, I'll put that question to you. What is your answer to this editor?
Well, I might say that I did back the president in his action in Little Rock, Arkansas. I think it is quite regrettable and unfortunate that young high school students have to go to school under the protection of federal troops. But I think it is even more unfortunate that a public official, through irresponsible actions, leaves the President of the United States with no other alternative. So I did back the President, and I sent him a telegram commending him. Now, your main question is, and the question of the editor of our local newspaper here is, how does this jibe with my whole philosophy of nonviolence?
How does it?
I believe firmly in nonviolence, as I have already said. But at the same time, I am not an anarchist. Now, some pacifists are anarchists following Tolstoy, but I don't go that far. I believe in the intelligent use of police force. I think one who believes in nonviolence must recognize the dimensions of evil within human nature. And there is a danger that one can indulge in a sort of superficial optimism, thinking man is all good. Man does not only have the greater capacity for goodness, but there is also the potential for evil. And I think of that throughout my whole philosophy, and I try to be realistic at that point. So that I believe in the intelligent use of police force. And I think that is all we have in Little Rock. It's not an army fighting against a nation or a race of people. It is just police force seeking to enforce the law of the land.
And this would be your answer to the editor. To explore another facet of the Little Rock situation, are you satisfied with President Eisenhower's performance on the racial issue?
Well, I guess to answer that question, I would need to make a general statement. That is that the Negro has been betrayed at many points by both political parties. I don't want to make this a party situation. I don't think either party can boast of having clean hands in this area. It is my conviction that both parties have failed to take the strong stand in the area of civil rights that they could take.
Having called down a plague on the houses of both parties, are you satisfied with President Eisenhower's performance in this particular situation, Dr. King?
Well, with the Little Rock situation, yes. I think the president should be commended for the positive and forthright stand that he is now taking in the area of civil rights in general and in the situation in Little Rock, Arkansas in particular.
But you are dissatisfied with the overall performance of both the President's party and of the Democratic Party?
Oh, yes. I think both parties could improve, and I think both parties must come to the point that they see the moral issues involved rather than making a political football out of the civil rights issue.
The implication being you think they still are doing that?
At points, yes.